So greetings everyone, this is Devesh. I made with another video, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, written by Mark Twain. So let's go on to the introduction. So this novel was written in 1884 by Mark Twain, a famous American writer who is also known to have been the father of American literature, as said by many scholars. And then this novel deals with the adventures by a young teenager named Huckleberry Finn, the protagonist of the novel. So the Adventures of Tom Sawyer, 1876, which is a preceding sequel to this novel, where it discusses about the adventures of Tom Sawyer, the friend of Huckleberry Finn, and then a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, written 1889, some of the other famous novels of Mark Twain. So Samuel Langdon Clemens is the real name of Mark Twain. So Mark Twain is his pen name. Then this novel is a Bildungsroman novel, meaning it explicates the growth and progress of the protagonist over a course of time, where his character transforms completely, where we are able to see that Huckleberry Finn transforms into a valuable, empathy-filled human being. He's a 14-year-old teenager where he goes through a variety of adventures in a raft, as well as he goes into hiding, he faces his own death, etc. He saves Jim from slavery. There are a lot of adventures explicated in the novel. So racism is the prime core theme in the novel, where the novel takes place in the pre-Civil War America, where racism was rampant, especially in the South, where people enslaved black Africans, the white Americans actually did that, who hired them as slaves throughout their life, with almost no holidays, no nothing, no personal lives, no private time, where they were called as niggers with spite and disrespect, named by the whites. So then Hypocrisy is the scathing attack made by Mark Twain on the white society, which pretends to be civilized with its high class education and and so on. But he states that it fails, and it has failed to make them as better human beings, since they are unable to empathize with the black Africans, and they are unable to accept them as human beings too, due to the discrimination they inflict upon the black Africans. They later became as black African Americans, and they were being exploited, as seen through Jim, where they were separated from their family. The fear looms. They were viewed as subhumans, and the cruelty. Cruelty is another major sub-theme which we are able to see stemming out of racism, where human beings are cruel to one another, where we are able to see killing, hurting, mobbing, killing, lynching of black people, as well as fooling by the con men, the king and the duke, whom invade the raft owned by Jim and Huckleberry Finn, who are opportunistic, and they try to even fool the orphans, three sisters, Mary Jane, Susan, and then Halep, it's a nickname, and then they pretend to be the cousins or the nephews of the orphaned sisters, named Harvey and William Wilkes. As Peter Wilkes dies, leaving behind a fortune of $6,000 to the orphan sisters, and they try to loot it, which upsets Huckleberry Finn. So Huckleberry Finn initially runs away from his father Pat because of his abusive behavior, and he also threatens him to hand over the $6,000 money owned recently, as in the novel, by Huckleberry Finn, due to a treasure received from a share from Tom Sawyer. And then He fakes his own death, sprinkling a pig's blood in the house where he is locked by his father, and then he runs away, finding an opportunistic moment. And then the raft symbolizes Huckleberry Finn's and Jim's freedom, where they travel together, journey together, and they have a good time, where they escape and they communicate and they build a relationship of being Jim being a surrogate father to Huckleberry Finn, where they find peace away from the strict pre-established rules and norms of the society. Then the Mississippi River represents the struggles and the change of currents that ties the situation of Huckleberry Finn and Jim as they encounter a variety of dangerous situations where they once again they encounter people in the raft while being on a raft, where Huckleberry Finn manages to convince them that his father has smallpox, which is Jim, which actually fools him, and then obtain some money, and they also loot a robber's boat, and also they encounter the Duke and the King, the conman, as previously mentioned, and also he disguises, and a lot of adventure takes place. And then Jim represents the whole of the African black community, where they are forced to work throughout the day and be slaves to white Americans, where they had no lives, no right to their own lives, and the loss of familial ties, the constant fear was looming throughout their lives, where there's a possibility that they might be sold elsewhere, being estranged from their own kith and kin. Then non-conformity. So Huckleberry Finn champions non-conformity as seen in the novel, since he refuses to be a part of the society, to accept its pre-established rules and norms, to segregate African blacks, where he befriends Jim and finds that he too is a human who has all the feelings and emotions similar to the white Americans, and he struggles a lot and he achieves freedom for Jim through a lot of adventure with the help of Tom Sawyer, where they release Jim from slavery, with a lot of mishaps happening in the presence of Aunt Sally and Aunt Polly. And then, in conclusion, the novel throws light on regression of humankind due to the discrimination and exploitation of each other, failing to empathize and understand fellow human beings due to selfish motives, leading to exploitation of each other for their own comfortable needs. Let's see some significant quotes from the novel. Give a nigger an inch and he'll take an L is a famous saying in the American society during the time that a small advantage could be turned into a big one set by the white Americans for the black African community. Then, what did that poor woman do to you that you could treat her so mean is a guilt feeling which Huckleberry Finn encounters as he helps Jim, her slave, run away. And then it was awful thoughts and awful words, but they was said was refers to the letter written by Huckleberry Finn to expose that Jim was hiding with him. Alright, then I'll go to hell is the complete inversion of thoughts by Huckleberry Finn as he struggles to accept Jim to be treated as a slave, but rather he feels him as a fellow human being. The pitifulest thing out is the mob represents the vanity in the violence pursued by people, where they lynch, they kill, they hurt each other. We said there weren't no home like a raft after all. So it's the newfound freedom found by Huckleberry Finn and Jim. And the mob refers to the Shepherdsons and Grangerfords and a lot of experiences undergone by Huckleberry Finn, where people kill each other for no reason, as it's a void pre-established for generations, as you could see. We said there are no yeah, you see that. So I most wish I was there. It's again Huckleberry Finn's monologue, where he confronts his guilt with regarding to Widow Douglas, who was benefactor, his guardian, trying to civilize Huckleberry Finn by sending him to school and teaching him good manners. And there's Jim chained by one leg with a 10-foot chain to the leg of his bed. This refers to Jim, where he now is severely punished after trying to run away in Philip's house. It was enough to make a body ashamed of the human race. So Huckleberry Finn is ashamed of the entire race of humanity since he was unable to accept uh, the treatment of black Africans as slaves. I got you feeling so mean and so miserable, is said by Huckleberry Finn regarding Widow Douglas. And then Huckleberry Finn loses hope in this civilization, which represents the voice of the author as well. And the author calls for a greater system where all human beings could be treated as equal, especially in America, where racism was prevalent and rampant. So thank you. I hope I had added something to your understanding of the novel. Kindly do like, comment if any, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.